Welcome back. I'm playing Warhammer 40,000 Gladius and we're working on our Tyranid Impossible playthrough here, trying to do a total conquest victory. Last time we really sped up the game to blow through some monotony as we were getting our economy sorted out. But I did end up having a strong enough force where I was able to push through and kill the Space Marines. So that was a little bit chaotic at the increased speeds. I did turn them down a little bit this episode. That way it won't be quite as quick. It still sped up a little bit, but nowhere near where it was for that first episode, or the second episode, because what we were effectively doing is just skipping a bunch of turns while we were waiting for unit production and the cities to be up and functional. And so there was just a lot of issues where it's like my turn was 45 seconds and then the enemy turn would be 3 minutes. And so it just leads to a bunch of staring at a screen saying enemy turn, kind of like what's happening right now. And that gets to be a little bit boring if it's just, 15 turns of that. So I just sped up the gameplay a bunch here. But now that we're actually going to be getting into combat, not having to just do the same thing over and over again, it'll be a little bit better. Because once you get too fast with the gameplay, it's almost dizzying and hard to follow what's exactly happening here. But the big thing is I want to take out these neutral armies. That way we can hopefully start locking down these outposts so then we can start increasing our resource generation even further. And maybe even eventually get another city going. Now, I can't do anything right now, given that we have such a negative loyalty situation going. Ideally, I'd like to have some more Hive Tyrants going so we can use their one of their leveled abilities to start increasing the loyalty to our cities, and that will help nullify some of the starting penalties to the loyalty for founding new cities. Because the more each city you get after your first city will give you a -4 loyalty penalty to every city going forward. And so with myself having, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 cities, so that'll be 3 giving a -4, so that means your next city that I make will start out at a -12 loyalty, which will make the city incredibly inefficient because they'll suffer massive productivity penalties, which means it's going to take additional days for the building to give us the increased production speed to be sped up. And then even after you get that, instead of having a 1-turn building time frame per building, it'll be 2 or 3 times until you overcome 2 or 3 turns, I should say, until you're able to start building those buildings and get that loyalty penalty down, and then it'll go to finally being back to 1 turn per production building again. But you just got to be very, very cognizant of that. Now, it does look like chaos to the south of us is right below us in that fog of war, so we need to shift ourselves a little bit north. That way we don't aggro the forces of chaos onto us, because right now we just want to get an idea of where the enemy forces are and hopefully get things on lockdown here. Alright, well, let's just keep pushing here. That's not great. That is their anti-aircraft vehicle. So you want to make sure you kill that, because it can actually do surprising amount of damage to your Hive Tyrants, because those are considered flying vehicle or flying units. Now the question is, do I get a brood hive over here? I think I probably do. And then I can warp these guys all the way over this way and really expedite their movement. And let's get these guys equipped here. The dimensional key might allow him to warp out of danger. And then let's get the healing heroes as well. Because I could definitely use that healing with the amount of damage I'm taking here. Yeah, these Assault Terminators. So you can see by they just start out with minus 83% damage, but then they also have the invulnerable damage there with the storm shields. So these guys are like the ultimate tanks here. Now that 83% is with their armor, so you can get past that with the armor piercing, but then they have that invulnerable damage which you can't get bypassed. So you'll never do more than 33% of the damage you're trying to hit with to those Terminators there, and that's how they can be very powerful tanks. Alright, let's kill him, and then you guys are just going to need to repair for a little bit of time. You could use that Exploit Weakness, which is the level 6 ability for the Hive Prime there, or not that, for the Prime, and that reduces their armor by 50%, and then that debuff sticks around for 3 turns. So that can be really helpful when you're taking out super heavy units, or what I like to do is apply that to a city, and then for 3 turns you can attack that city with it only having 50% of the armor and helping you bypass some of that defense to help you kill the cities even faster. Now these guys can summon Termagants, but I don't really think that they're worth it. Now they'll start out at a higher level, which can be nice with the abilities upgraded for the I forget what they're called, not Trigones, Termagants. And so therefore it can be nice, especially if you don't need to do healing, is you can just move them around and then all of a sudden just spit out those Termagants and have them just run around and capture outposts or soak up Overwatch. I think that's probably the most effective way of using them there, because by late game those Termagants aren't going to do enough damage to make it worthwhile. Yeah, some of these places would be nice to make a city, but I don't want to be too far south and aggro those Chaos guys onto us. I mean, it looks like there's lots of influence areas, but not great biomass locations. Which would actually be my preference. Because once you get 2 influence cities, that's usually going to be enough influence for you to get several heroes. Unless you're going to do a massive hero spam, then you're going to want a 3rd one. But you're going to want to have a bunch of biomass cities, though. That way you can keep pumping out your higher tier units. Ah, there's a cliff there. I'm like, why are you not doing enough damage here? Let's just make a city here, I guess. Because I do want to rush this a little bit. You're now up to +8 for your loyalty. Alright, we just definitely got to finish building out these cities. The capital is totally built out as much as it can be. Again, the Tyranid cities are smaller in size than most other factions. They can only go out to 2 tiles at maximum acquisition radius. The only one that's smaller is the Adeptus Sororitas with their secondary cities, because they only have a 1 tile acquisition radius around it. But their main city, I think, can get all the way out to 3 tiles. Drop him and get your equipment here. So Felshen's Wing, we'll get you the Zodhide, the Endurance, and then the Armors, and then probably that so you don't have Overwatch getting activated. So the Felshen's Wing allows him to increase his movement. The Zodhide increases his healing percentage and also his HP, making him harder to kill because he's a hero and has those hero damage reductions. The Endurance Implant increases his movement by 1 range, again because we want to move him all around the map to be able to heal our units, because he is actually a pretty powerful healer. The Ultra Band allows him to move around and not trigger Overwatch shots, because you don't want him to get sniped out when he's trying to move around to save people with his medical skills. I think that was all the items I got. Oh, and then the armor obviously increases the armor, because the higher it is, while it does max out at 83% damage reduction, if, let's say you have 13 armor and your opponent has an armor piercing of 4, then that means your default armor will be 9, and you'll still be near that 80% damage reduction, not taking into consideration your other damage mitigation. So it just gives you a bunch of safety, especially if you're attacked by units that have some decent armor penetration. It'll just allow you to nullify some extra percents of that to keep your unit alive even longer. Which early on in the game is not an issue because you have a bunch of low to mid tier units moving around, but once you get to the late game and they start getting more elite tier units that have more high damage output, armor penetration, then you want to just make sure you're keeping your guys safe here. Alright, I don't think I have enough influence to fully kit you out yet. Yeah, I'm out of influence, so we'll just have to wait here for a little bit. Let's see, we got 1, 3, so 4, 6, 8. So yeah, we'll need one more population to get the city fully kitted out, and then we'll just focus on the biomass and loyalty. We'll get the biomass here, one more population, and biomass. And we'll just keep pushing. We should be able to get that relic under our control. Looks like we got about 20% of the map under our influence right now, which is pretty nice. Yeah, I definitely should probably start getting my army rebuilt to help us push against these neutrals. I'm just not sure how far south I can go here before we crash into chaos. Because we see they have that outpost to the right there. Alright, that should be good. Alright, let's see, we're up to 143. I'm still going to be a little short, so I'm going to have to wait one more turn, I think. Unless I just go with that, and we're good. I can get you out and warp you around. And now you can start getting these buildings out. And we will keep fighting here. Ooh, don't be doing this now, Chaos. You turn yourself around. I was finally feeling like I was just making some progress. Don't be doing this stupid shit on me here. Alright, well, looks like we discovered our next opponent. The hive mind has tasted this before, only a morsel though. On a faraway fringe of the galaxy it was sated. So, yep, that's clearly Tau over there, because you can see the little force field barriers. Shit. Alright, well, the Drukhari, or not Drukhari, the Craft World are here too. So let's just run you away. And hopefully, I wonder if that means the Tau and the Eldar are fighting each other. Alright, let's just run these guys down. because hopefully the AI will waste attacks on the Termagants and not our Melanthropes. So we can clear out that wireweed. Alright, he's going to need more loyalty buildings here, and then we can start spamming that biomass. And then these guys, if chaos is coming for us, we better just start making a defensive force to change their calculations about whether they want to come pick a fight with me. Yeah, I would say if you're really struggling with your fights, there's a couple of ways that you can deal with it. You can do a mass swarm low tier infantry, but I tend to find that very inefficient because you spend actually a surprising amount of resources spamming out those units, and then if you don't do it correctly and you start losing the cohesion and you have to use that living incubator, it just kind of spirals out of control pretty quickly. Now if you're just fighting the neutrals or the creeps, that's fine, not a problem. But if you're actually having to fight another player, what I typically recommend is getting a couple of primes, because you know that I like to push with those anyways. And then what I'll do is I'll get a couple of warriors. And then the prime has abilities that it actually increases the amount of attacks that the warriors can do. And then once you get all those upgraded abilities, the warriors and the prime actually get even more additional attacks, so all that stuff really stacks on themselves, and the warriors actually can do a surprising amount of damage even for being a pretty early game unit with all those different attacks, especially when you start stacking those buffs with the prime there. So that can be a good option. Alternatively, if you want to use something that's a little more durable than the warriors, because the warriors are pretty easy to kill, they don't take a hit very well, is you can get the Carnifex, and then you get a couple of Carnifexes, and as you can see, or you may have been noticing as I've just been randomly clicking through the research, there's several different Carnifex upgrades here to give them additional attacks too, and they can actually do a surprising amount of damage. Now again, once you get to be into the later stages of the game, the Carnifexes are easily able to be killed, but if you are playing against a real life player or the AI on an easier difficulty, those Carnifexes can take enough hits from a city to allow you to siege it down because they have enough armor, they do enough damage that it should still do damage to the enemy city, and hopefully allow you to get the kill, especially after you have a lot of their additional attacks upgraded. It's kind of like the battle wagon for the orcs is, while it can do some pretty decent damage, it gets even better once you get all of its upgrades up, and then that can really hold the line for a shocking amount of time until you get your late tier units out. But for the orcs, I think there's other ways to do it, but that was just an example. Because I do find that a lot of players tell me they really struggle with the Tyranids, and like I said, I kind of struggle with the Tyranids too. I think they're a little bit of a harder faction to use for sure. Especially early on while you're having to balance all these different mechanics. And then they can kind of stall out mid to late game too if you're not using that tile reclamation ability to help augment your economy, or you get a bad start and you don't have a bunch of tiles nearby to help you get a bunch of biomass bonuses going. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight as well. But I would like to push against the Tyranids, but... Or, not the Tyranids, the Tau, but I don't know if I actually have a big enough army that I can kill bases, to be honest. I suffered such high losses with the Space Marines here. So what I may end up doing is just dropping down a Brood Hive up here. And then if Chaos doesn't come after me, maybe I'll just use some of those scythe units to warp in, and then I can have them start attacking the Tau cities. In fact, I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, assuming Chaos no longer moves in towards us. Because it looks like they've moved away now that I started to make some of these elite tier units. Alright, we'll use that as our spawn point here. Alright, so you can see the city outskirts there. I wasn't sure. Now the interesting thing is I don't really see Oh, I see what I did. I used their increased movement ability. I'm like, why did he not warp over here? That's actually unfortunate because I would like to use that increased movement ability next turn to help him close the distance onto that city here. But now with those three guys here, now I do have a strong enough force that I can start attacking cities. So let's let the rampage begin here. Of course, as soon as I move my guys around, then Chaos has to come around and be like, oh, are you weak again? Maybe I want to come say hi. I wonder if they're fighting over there. It seems like it's a little premature for them to aggro onto me, since I haven't even really attacked them yet. It's pretty strong. They got 4 relics already. That means the Tau must have a pretty good portion of the map under their control. Let's apply that ability. Get him out of here. Try to get you over to here. Get you to run over this way. You can come here. Let's get you over here. You can just start attacking. Alright, and now with those guys dead, the question is, try to surround the city here. We're just going to have you have to hang out down here. Get a couple of those guys yet. And that city is fully constructed now. And then hopefully our Hive Tyrants won't get killed, and I can use that Tier 6 ability to increase damage and damage reduction, and everybody can shoot into the city and it should die. we just got to move around. Yeah, see, it's down to 3 armor because of that penalty. Of course, he's got storm surges. It is turn 99. Well, let's buff everybody. Start attacking. Pull you back since you're pretty injured. You can start shooting the city. Alright, good. They're almost healed up. Let's try to move you around. We gotta be careful. We don't want you to get attacked by the storm surge. Maybe we'll just move you around the back here. Two, 4, 6. I think both of those other two were 6, so that's 12 to get that city fully built out. Alright, but that'll be one major Tau city down. I don't think that's going to be their capital, given the location of it, but it's definitely one of the older cities. Alright, Astra Militarum are down. Of course they all died. Of course, they relied on order, ranked troops, heavy armor, artillery, respected generals. Gaunts destroyed their order, Gene Stealers danced through their ranks, bioacid dissolved their armor, gargoyles descended on their artillery, and the lictors tore their generals apart. So, sounds like a bad time for sure. So let's see here. Astra Militarum, Space Marines, Necrons. I want to say there was another faction that's died so far too. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. Alright, finish off with the storm surges, because they are the biggest threat to our elite tier armies. Keep trying to explore with you. Alright, there's our next target. We'll just keep spamming those guys out for now. We're actually almost to the corner, so there may be 1 or 2 more bases up north, and then we'll have to start going down to the south. I assume the Eldar are over here killing the Tau as well. given that we saw them as we were moving over there trying to capture those outposts. Hopefully that continues, so the Tau will think the Eldari are a bigger threat than we are, allowing us to continue to move around and take out their cities. Alright. And thankfully, with our ultimate units having multiple attacks, that should really help us get through a lot of these low-tier units. And actually a unit that can be surprisingly good at helping you kill a bunch of drones and stuff like that is actually your Hive Tyrant. Because if there's a bunch of drones all grouped together, you can literally fly into the middle of them. Then you can use that Psychic Screech and that will kill all those guys. So it becomes extremely cost effective. Alright. So see, we did the Psychic Screech and we just killed multiple models there. So very efficient AoE attack, especially if they're low tier units. Alright, now this base is up and running, so let's just get that biomass going like nobody's business. And then you're here, so let's just allow you to spam the biomass. Alright, so we found this city over here. I'm not sure if there's another one there. We've got the city down here. Chaos keeps being a dick and posturing on us down south. Alright, let's try to focus down this city here. Move everybody around to try to body block and get the maximum amount of attacks here. Ah, that's right. Those guys, because they're hovering units, don't actually have the ability to capture resource points. Shit. I think they got another base over here. Because they shouldn't be able to expand that far. I bet the tower probably one of the major forces. Because we took out a base that had 40-some population. We're taking out another base that's got 40-some population. They've got a base to the south that's got 37-some population. And I'm willing to bet to the left here they got another one that's going to be around 40 population too. And then who knows about these centers that are a little bit lower to the south here. Alright, another city down. Alright, let's run you up here to try to soak up that Overwatch. Guess let's just fly you over here to try to get an idea of what's going on. I'll get you here, heal there, heal here, you can advance up to there. And kill those Krutaks. I think what we're going to want to do is move you into the city for protection. And we'll move you over to here. Kill the cadre and that guy. I think we just need to pull you back to keep you safe. Should have done that first and we could have killed that storm surge. Well, we did it anyway, so I guess it's not the end of the world. I think we gotta get another one going though. Let's see, 36 required, so I need another population center there. Alright, we're going to have to hold off on the production here because we're out of resources. And then we can get your population up here. And get you there. Alright, well this isn't actually as bad as I thought it was. I thought there was going to be another city with the 40-some population, but it's only 27, so that means it should be easier to kill. So let's show the greater good who's boss here. All right. Start healing that guy up. Get you over here. Take that out. I think we gotta just focus on killing some of these guys right now. Okay, good. We're kind of hate to use such an elite tier unit as a scout. just attack there. You're pretty injured. So I think we'll keep you there to keep you on a defensive bonus. I feel like we're in just a perpetual combat situation here. Alright, this one's still 30 some population. I think we just gotta pause that for a little bit while we're still working on our production. Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to kill the Tau on this episode at this rate. Probably can next episode. But I think they just probably have bases all up in here given how many forces we're killing. Now granted, a lot of those are drones which they're spamming out. Alright, get you there, get you over here, run you over here. And we just gotta start taking out these cities. I was hoping that was gonna just kill that guy, so we could get you in here to help with the killing, but I don't think that's gonna happen. Gotta pull you back and start healing you though. Alright, you guys just start attacking here. And then start stepping on guys. Alright, you come over here. Alright, let's just build these loyalty buildings. And get you a loyalty building. I think that's going to be your last one. And then that city's fully kitted out. Alright, I think we'll have one more turn and then I'm going to call quits for the day. Let's see, we got city here, here, one to the right, and I think there's probably at least another city to the south. So at least 4 more Tau cities. Probably more, but minimum of 4. Alright, get you over here, capture those. You can heal here. attack here. That city's down. Let's capture that. You can drop here. You can start attacking these cities. There's another city down. Take out that commander. And then take out the Krutaks here. And then we'll start capturing these areas here. So I'm going to call quits here for the day. I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, please give my channel a like and subscribe. Encouraging to post more content for you. Have a great day.